Hi Stampers, Judy Garza here with Creativity Release, live today from Victoria, Texas. My goal is to bring you tips and tricks to release your creativity through paper crafting. Yesterday I showed you a plaid Christmas card using the best plaid dies along with a couple cards I made with the Misty Moonlight scraps. Well, today I have a Christmas card using the real red scraps from that same card. So let me turn my camera around. Okay, and show you the original card here that I showed you yesterday. Okay, and you see this this piece of the best plaid die. What that left me with, I cut it. First of all, let me tell you that I used a piece of 6 to 6 1/4 inch by 4 1/2 inch piece of cardstock to cut this in particular die. That way it left me with this scrap. Okay, this is the piece of real red that like this that I took out, and it left me with this piece. So what I've done, we're going to use an 11 by 4 1/4 inch whisper white thick cardstock card. So the card front's going to be 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. So that's the size that I cut my whisper white piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on the inside and some of the edges here. Now just know that this is going to cover a lot of this, but it's not going to go all the way out to the very edge. So you don't want to get overzealous and put your glue out to the very edge. Okay. Then you're going to take your 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch piece of cardstock, and the top and the bottom you shouldn't be able to see any of these little openings, but on the two ends you will, because again you cut it longer. And what this does, it allows you then to get it centered the way you want it. And then I'm going to bring my cutter in and again just cut that down to where I want it. I'm lining this white, the whisper white cardstock up with where the cutting is going to be happening. Just going to cut that off. Okay. So how's your 4th of July going? Ours has been pretty quiet. I think all the kids went to their in-laws and everything else, so we kind of have the day off, and that's not a bad thing. But happy Independence Day to everybody out there. Clearly, if you're watching this, you're not at a parade, or maybe you're catching it on the replay. Okay, so once you have that cut out, then we're just going to go ahead and attach that right onto the, I pressed down a little bit too hard on that. That's okay. All right, and so we're just going to glue that right onto the card front. And again, I kind of like the to use the Tombow because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to get things lined up straight and where I want them. Okay, so now all you have left to do is to decorate a little piece to go in there. And I used the 4th smallest stitched rectangle die from this set of 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This die, and it fits perfectly in the center. So this is a card that we're going to make, or that I've made, and I want to show you how I put the rest of it together. If I can get it up there a little bit closer for you. Okay. So you know what? I didn't bring my blends to the table with me, so I'm going to have to pop up here in a minute and get the 3 sets or 4 sets that we're using. We're using Crumb Cake, Real Red, Mossy Meadow, and Smoky Slate blends. But first we are going to stamp the cabin from the, it's the returning card stamp set from last year called Rustic Retreat, and it has this cabin. And for this Merry Christmas, we're using, again, the carried over itty bitty Christmas dies. And we're going to be using this in particular stamp. It's down here at the bottom, but we're only going to ink up the Merry Christmas on that. And then finally, we're using the Peaceful Boughs that carried over from last year as well. Okay. So with Mossy Meadow, I'm going to go ahead and, being mindful that where I want my sentiment to go, I'm just going to stamp this once. Oops, got a little bit low. That's okay. Just have to work around that a little bit. And this one I want to go straight in and a little on the side. Okay. And then to get the sentiment on it, I'm going to use my Stampin' Write marker. You can't use blends on your rubber stamps because all it will do is color the rubber stamp, and it won't stamp onto your paper, but it will stay on your rubber. So you want to only use the Stampin' Write marker that are water-based, and since they are, you can ink that up, and even if it dries up a little bit, you can always huff on it and then stamp it where you want it. Oh, a little bit crooked. I'll have to fix that later. Let me get out the, I'm over here getting out the colors that we're gonna need. Real red. I'm sorry. Thanks for being patient with me. Because we have the red border around, I used the Real Red Dark to color in the window frames. This is hard to do on film because I can't get close enough to see really what I'm doing. But you get that. And then I used the Mossy Meadow to color in the trees. And I don't think I need to sit here and do all of the coloring of the whole thing, but those are the trees in the background. And then I used the Crumb Cake to color in the house. All right. And I think I used the dark darker crumb cake, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so once you get that all colored in, and using the light and dark smoky slate, that will give you this piece. And so before I do that whole thing, I should have had one colored already, and I didn't think to do that. But I'm going to just go ahead and put a couple of dimensionals on just so that you can see, and I can take it off and finish it later. But that would sit right here. Okay. Then I use the beautiful bows, thinlets, and I used this 3-branch one and the pine cone, and I stamped the pine cone on a piece of crumb cake scrap, so you can see that we all have those little strips of scrap. So I stamped it and I cut it out with this little thinlet or die. And then I had another piece of scrap in my drawer of mossy meadow, and I used that to cut this three bow. Okay. So to get this finished off, I used the mini dimensionals. You caught me without the minis. I just have the regular ones at my desk. Okay, and I just put the minis here in the back where you couldn't see them very well. Okay, I got those, and then after gluing these a little bit together, I popped those up with the big glue dimensional. Oops, in the back. And then finally, made a little bitty bow, and I put that at the top with a mini dimensional. And I usually use glue dots for the bows, but because this is already popped up and this is popped up, if I do it with a mini glue dot, it's going to set cattywampus on there, and we don't want that. So there you go. There you are. And I'm going to have to get my trusty punch out and make a little sentiment to go over that. And there you have it. So have fun creating with the scrap pieces from the best plaid dies. I'm sorry, I had a brain infarct there for a minute. Okay, so measurements for all the cards that I did yesterday and today can be found on my blog at creativityreleased.com. And be sure to subscribe to my blog so that you'll get notices whenever I post a new content to it. And thank you so much for stopping by and being patient with me as I navigate my way through making these videos. It was good to see you today. I hope you'll come back. Thank you. Bye-bye.